Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm sad to say I'm sorry, so lie. Pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. And so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Life kept spitting at my feet and forced me down a dead-end street, when all I had went up in flames, burning only dark remains. I cover up every part of my skin, oh, 'cause I don't like the person within. Oh, I know I'm the one to blame. All I can do is take the shame. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry, so lie and pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. Whoa, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs. Too many things to criticize. So I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. A lie. No, don't wanna live a lie. Live a lie. Ooh, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. Oh no. Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm sad to say I'm sorry, so lie. Pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I feet and forced me down a dead-end street when all I had went up in flames, burning only dark remains. I cover up every part of my skin, oh, 'cause I don't like the person within, oh. I know I'm the one to blame. All I can do is take the shame, oh. Do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry, so lie and pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. Whoa, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs, too many things to criticize. So I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. Oh no. Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm sad to say I'm sorry, so lie, pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs, too many things to criticize. And so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Life kept spitting at my feet and forced me down a dead-end street when all I had went up in flames, burning only dark remains. I cover up every part of my skin, oh, 'cause I don't like the person within, oh. I know I'm the one to blame. All I can do is take the shame, oh. Do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry, so lie and pretend that you're okay. Swear that you will stay. Keep trying for one day. Whoa, I'm sick of all these lies. Don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide. Don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs, too many things to criticize. So I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. A lie. capsize. Oh no. Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'd be sad to say I'm sorry, so lie, pretend that you're okay, swear that you will stay, keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies, don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide, don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs, too many things to criticize, and so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. Life kept spitting at my feet and forced me down a dead-end street, when all I had went up in flames, burning only dark remains. I cover up every part of my skin, oh, 'cause I don't like the person within. Oh, I know I'm the one to blame. All I can do is take the shame. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'm too sad to say I'm sorry, so lie and pretend that you're okay, swear that you will stay, keep trying for one day. Whoa, whoa. I'm sick of all these lies, don't care if I capsize. There's nothing left for me to hide, don't wanna live a lie. Too many lows, too many highs, too many things to criticize, so I leave it all behind. Don't wanna live a lie. A lie. I don't wanna live a lie. We'll live a lie. Ooh, yeah. I'm sick of all these lies, don't care if I capsize. Oh no. Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why. I'd be sad to say I'm sorry, so lie, pretend that you're okay, swear that you will stay, keep trying for one day. I'm sick of all these lies, don't care if I street when all I took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh, do we say goodbye? Refuse to question why.
All right, everybody. Justice is a Process is back here, and we are here for the PM session of the Blake Scanlon case. So we're going to be resuming the testimony of the detective on the case, and then the judge indicated there would be one more witness after that. So it looks like they're going to be ending at about 4 o'clock today, so we're going to go for about 2 hours. And like I said, I like to start a little bit behind, just to be able to give us a little bit of time to move through sidebars and stuff like that. So anyways, with that said, we're going to jump into the courtroom, guys, and let's pick up where we left off before lunch. All right.
Actually, I retract that. We can proceed.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll bring the jury out. The trooper can take the stand if he's here.
He is.
Before I forget, what's the lineup for tomorrow, Mr. Green?
Tomorrow,
I know your head's in a different spot right now, but
yeah, no, that's fine. Remaining civilian witnesses, I believe we'll probably start one this afternoon, and we may not get through all of her. Another civilian witness, and then one more state police trooper, and then I'm going to probably have my lab people lined up for the afternoon. It's just, we're going so quickly that the ME is not available until Wednesday, but he could be here Wednesday, first witness.
okay.
And then I may rest.
Okay.
Are you entering? may be seated.
Back, members of the jury. Has any member of the jury had any difficulty whatsoever adhering strictly to my instructions that I gave you before we broke? Seeing no affirmative response, does any member of the jury know of anybody on the jury who has had any difficulty following any of my instructions throughout this trial? See no affirmative response. So we'll continue now, and I believe it's the cross of Trooper Cristofori. All right, go ahead, counsel.
Actually, don't have very much for you this afternoon.
Not a problem, Counselor.
First of all, may I approach your honor?
Yes, free approach.
Do you recognize where these photos depict?
Not specifically.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
As part of the investigation of this, photos were taken of the apartment there, right?
Yes.
And you didn't personally take all of the photos and videos?
No, I didn't.
Okay. But you were in the apartment and you recognized the inside of that apartment?
I do.
All right. Does this appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the bedroom in that apartment?
I don't specifically, Counselor, ever recall going into the bedroom. These appear to be overalls, and that would have been done by a different crime scene trooper.
Okay, so as part of your investigation, you did not go into the...
I don't specifically remember going into this bedroom.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Is that a picture of the closet in the bedroom that you recall?
I don't specifically remember going into this area.
Okay. So it was your testimony that this was a small...
Yeah, sure.
Want those marked for ID, counsel? Sure.
I and J.
Let me ask you this. Who took those photos?
Retired Trooper Christopher Dolan and now Lieutenant Sharon Marr. They both did the processing of the overalls.
Okay. Did you review the photos?
I did.
And you wrote a report that was the lead case officer?
I did, yes. Yep.
Okay. And so as part of that, did you review all of the photos?
Not every single one of them. I think there was like 700 or 800, if I'm not mistaken.
So as lead case officer, this apartment quite small, right?
It is.
Not more than 800 square feet or so,
I wouldn't know that, Counselor. I'm sorry.
but two small bedrooms and a
Yeah.
small living area.
Correct.
Okay. And so your testimony is that you did not go into the entire apartment as part of being the lead case investigator.
My testimony is that I don't recall going specifically into the bedrooms. I remember being in the kitchen, the common area, and the sofa area primarily.
Okay. So now you have no recollection of one of the bedrooms in the small apartment.
Not specifically.
Okay. Come back to that.
Just need those, right? Yeah. Yeah, because we just need those if you're not going to use them with this witness. Thank you. Can I see those again, Bill?
I just want to briefly touch on, you testified earlier that at some point there was a smell of gas.
Yes.
And that was when you executed the search warrant, is that correct?
When we were making entry, correct.
Okay, so it wasn't, you weren't there upon the first entry of officers on the scene?
No, yeah, we were called after.
Okay. And in fact, you did not go there to execute the search warrant until about 5:45 on Sunday evening?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point in time, you smelled some amount of gas?
Yes.
Okay. Enough to feel like you needed to alert the fire department?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that. As in executing that search warrant, you're looking for all evidence of the crime that obviously took place in that apartment?
Yes.
And I just want to go over this again. So you wrote the affidavit in support of the search warrant, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so as part of that, writing that affidavit, you had to describe the place to be searched. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And And as part of that, you had to describe how many bedrooms, perhaps?
I don't recall describing how many bedrooms.
Okay. But you did describe it as a small apartment?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, but it's your testimony now that you didn't play any role in preserving the evidence or the photos or recall what the apartment looked like?
No, that's not correct, Counselor.
Okay.
My recollection that I don't recall specifically those bedrooms.
Okay. Well, if I suggest to you that this is a photo taken during the investigation of the bedroom and the closet.
Sure. Yeah, then I could logically conclude that would be the case, right? But I don't specifically remember standing in here when this was happening. No.
But you agree that these are photos that were taken during the investigation in that apartment?
But I can opine to that, but I believe that the trooper that took that would be more qualified to answer that.
At this point, I'm going to ask that this be admitted.
Is there any objection, Mr. Green?
No, Your Honor.
No objection, will be marked in the next exhibits.
39 and 40.
I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Green, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Trooper.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Counsel. Thank you, jurors.
The Commonwealth would call Trooper Reedy, Sergeant Reedy. Mark Reedy.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you will give this court and jury in the case now on trial shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. Please take the witness stand.
Yeah, Mark.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Reedy. Spelling is R-E-I-D-Y.
And are you employed, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm employed by the Massachusetts State Police. I'm currently a sergeant assigned to the Fire Marshal's Office of the West Team.
How long have you been a trooper in total, sir?
In total, I've been on the force for about 19 years.
All right. And you mentioned that you're currently assigned to the Fire Marshal's Office.
That is correct.
How long have you been in that role?
I started this role in 2014. I was promoted out in 2020, and I came back in 2023 as the sergeant of the unit.
All right. Could you just briefly describe what your duties are working in the Fire Marshal's Office?
Sure. As I previously said, we started in 2015. From there, we were trained. I go down to the National Fire Academy, where we learn about fires, the origin and cause of fires. It's an 80-week course. From there, we have trainings that we go throughout the year to keep up our certifications, usually through the IAAI, which is the International Association of Arson Investigators, which I'm currently a member and certified through them. And like I said, we continue our trainings. We go to all fires, whether it be accidental, natural, incendiary, or undetermined. And we go and assist the fire marshal with determining what caused the fire.
Have you responded to crime scenes in that capacity throughout the course of your career?
I have.
Could you estimate perhaps how many? Or
Over 100.
Thank you.
Well over 100.
Now, I want to turn your attention specifically to January 13th of 2019. Were you called in to assist in an investigation on at 92 White Street in Westfield?
Yes, I was.
All right. And do you know why you were called in?
I was called in to help with the origin and cause, and also because I was a canine handler at the time, which is an accident detection canine. At the time, I was assigned a little black Labrador by the name of Star, who was trained through the ATF, and she would assist us in identifying ignited liquids in fire scenes.
All right. And when you got to the location, were you directed to a specific area to investigate or to look at?
I was directed up to the second floor apartment.
And where in the apartment did you focus your attention?
It was a kitchen.
And was there a particular part of the kitchen, an appliance or something that you were in?
Yep, so through the kitchen, there was a knee wall, similar to like this wall here, and alongside of it was a stove and a countertop. And this knee wall acted as like a partition from the kitchen to the eating area, and I was able to move the paneling of this wall that exposed the back of the appliance. What I found back there was some charring to the left sides of the cabinet, the gas line, which had duct tape around it, and some burnt paper and a burnt leaf. And from there, I opined that it
Well,
was...
actually, let me stop you there for one quick second. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm showing the witness exhibits 27, 28, and 29. Can you just take a look at those to yourself? Let me know when you've had a chance to familiarize yourself.
I'm good, Counselor.
And have you seen those images before
Yes.
in preparation for your testimony here today?
Yes.
You had a chance to review the crime scene photographs.
Yes, sir.
And just displaying exhibit number 27, when you say you were looking at a stove in that apartment, is that the stove you were looking at?
Correct.
All right. And what, if anything, in your, what's significant about the stove in your part of this investigation?
Other things that I noted that were important to me was the electrical tape that you can see on the connection. I don't know if you can see it in that photo, but gas stoves also have an electrical component to it, which operate your electronics. That was unplugged from the wall. And also you could see that there was a charred leaf and paper underneath the stove next to the gas line where the duct tape was.
All right. I'm going to show you number 28, exhibit 28. Hopefully that might be a little bit more useful for you to look at. What are we focused in on in this picture?
That is the burnt leaf that is near the connection lines, along with the paper that I observed on scene.
Based upon your training and experience and examination at the scene, were you able to form any opinions about what might have happened with that stove?
Yeah, excuse me, I have formulated an opinion that the stove had been tampered with in trying to attempt a fire within the apartment. Make it seem like there was some type of explosion and or fire via the gas stove.
Okay. But that stove did not actually catch fire?
No.
All right. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have for Sergeant Reedy.
Can I see counsel sidebar really quickly, please? Heard any other crimes other for testimony from Sergeant Reedy, as we all just heard, Mr. Scanlon is not charged with any other crimes other than the indictments that were read to you at the beginning of this particular trial. So you're not to take that evidence, if you credit the testimony, as evidence of his criminal character or his criminal propensity. You may, if you believe the evidence, use it to assess his state of mind at some point in time during the sequence of events, okay? So any cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much, Sergeant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, the call will call Detective Mazza.
You solemnly swear that the evidence you'll give this court and jury in the case now on trial shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please take the witness stand.
Whenever you're ready, Attorney Green.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name?
My name is Richard Mazza. Last name is Mazza.
And are you employed, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
By whom?
The City of Westfield Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
Since 2005.
Okay. And what is your current duty assignment within the Westfield Police Department?
I am assigned to the 4 to 12 shift as a detective general investigator.
All right. So in this particular case, I want to direct your attention back to January of 2019. What role did you have in the police department at that time?
I was a general investigator for the 4 to 12 shift as a detective, and I believe I was on call that weekend.
Okay. And so did you become involved in an investigation at 92 White Street?
Yes, sir, I was.
And are you one of the officers that responded to the scene at some point that day?
Correct.
And you've been a Westfield police officer for how many years, sir?
About 19.
All right. And so I want to ask you a couple just questions about general areas. Are you familiar with an establishment in Westfield called the Maple Leaf?
Yes, sir, I am.
And how best would you describe that?
It used to be a bar, and now it's a grill. They serve some food there.
And did you have an occasion recently to go there and take some photographs of the inside of the establishment?
Yes, sir, I did.
Yes. Do you have a chance to look at those?
Yes, sir.
Are those pictures that you took?
Yes, sir, they are.
And this incident obviously occurred 5 years ago or so in 2019. Are you familiar with what the establishment looked like back in 2019?
Yes, sir.
Any significant changes between then and when you took these pictures as to the layout?
Very. Back in the day, it was filled with pool tables. There wasn't any real table seating in the middle. It was basically isolated to the sides of the room.
Okay. So it does look somewhat different today than it did in 2019.
Correct.
And approximately what time of day did you take these photographs, if you recall?
Would have been right about 4 p.m.
Okay. Are these fair and accurate representations of the way this place looks recently at about 4 p.m.?
Yes, sir, they are.
Your Honor, I would move to offer these two exhibits.
Objection.
Sustained. Did you have an occasion to also go to another establishment in this investigation called the Whip?
The Whip, correct.
All right. And could you describe that establishment in general?
That's a bar that has 2 different entrances and a little dance floor right in front of the bar.
And was that establishment in operation in 2019?
It was.
Is it still in operation today?
It is.
Have there been significant changes, if you know, to the inside of that establishment between 2019 and now?
No major changes.
Okay. And may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Just again, show you these images, take a moment, look at them to yourself, and then look up. If you remember. Are you familiar with those images?
Yes, I am.
And did you take these images?
Yes, I did.
And again, approximately what time would you say you took these images?
Probably 4:15 p.m.
All right. And are these images fair and accurate representation of the way the Whip City appeared when you took the pictures recently?
Yes, sir.
And are they fair and accurate images of depictions of the way that the inside of it looked in 2019?
Yes, it is.
I moved off of these 3 pictures.
All right.
Objection.
That's overruled. These have been marked. 3 pictures, 41, 42, and 43.
Detective, you've been a police officer in the city for a long time, right?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the street layouts and things of that nature within your city?
Very.
Are you familiar with where the Whip City is located?
I am.
All right. And are you familiar with 92 White Street, just the location in general?
I am.
All right. And if one were to drive from one place to another, is there a main route that you would take?
There is.
Objection, Your Honor.
That's sustained. Rephrase that question, main route.
Let me ask you this. As part of this investigation, did you personally drive from Whip City to 92 White Street?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, this is overruled.
I'm sorry, what the answer was?
Several times.
Okay. And if you know, is there more than one way to go to get between the two places?
As a direct, no. You could probably drive backwards down a dozen different side streets to get there, but if you were going from A to B, that would be the only route to take.
All right. And are you familiar with that route?
I am.
Could you just describe that route, please?
Absolutely. So you would leave 287 North Elm Street, which is the Whip. That's the address there. You would head south on Route 10 and 202, which is a major state highway. You'd take that until you cross over Great River Bridge southbound, and you'd come up to Emery Street, and then it would be a turnaround to head north on Elm Street at that point. So you would enter that little turnaround, head north on Elm Street, and then you would be headed east on Meadow Street. And then you'd take Meadow Street to White Street and turn south onto White Street.
And is that general area of White Street, is that more commercial or more residential?
Residential.
All right. The area where the Whip is located in Elm Street, is that more commercial or residential?
Commercial.
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 Did you have an occasion to measure the distance between those two locations at some point in time?
I did.
And if you recall, what was the distance between the two locations?
It's about 1.3 miles.
All right. Let me ask you this. Have you ever worked a shift in Westfield that required you to be on duty between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning?
Many shifts, yes, sir.
And could you just describe in general what, if any, the traffic is like at 1 in the morning in Westfield on a Friday night?
Objection.
In general, what the traffic is, the objection's overruled.
In general, given that area, it's the only access to the Mass Pike for most hill towns. So while the traffic might be quite a bit less, it's always there. You always notice traffic. So it may not be bumper to bumper, and it might not be 2-3 cars at a time, but there's always traffic down that road.
And are there more than one, let me ask this, is there more than one bar or restaurant in that commercial area of Westfield?
There is not right in that area, no.
So pretty much just the Whip.
Just the Whip.
And if you know, based on your own experience working those late night shifts, when the bar gets out, is there, what is the traffic like as the bar closes down and people have to leave?
Right about 1:30 in most of Westfield where there's a bar or a pub located, right about 1:30 you'll see the traffic uptick. Vehicles start leaving, people going home, and we assume that would be people giving other people rides home from the bar, that sort of thing, but traffic picks up about 1:30 a.m.
Okay. And are there, if you know, are there street lights or stop signs in between the two locations?
Between 287 North Elm Street and 92 White Street, there is 4 traffic lights and 4 major intersections.
All right. And if you know, do those traffic lights, do they alter during different states of the day, meaning flashing yellow or whatever?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Right. Do you know if these traffic lights change?
I do know.
And what can you tell us about those traffic lights?
Traffic lights between 92 White Street and 287 North Elm Street do not flash, ever.
All right. So they're just on their standard?
They're always on a standard cycle.
All right. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have for Detective Mazza.
All right, any cross, please?
Detective Mazza, you were asked today about pictures that you just went out and took of these establishments in the last, couple of weeks?
Correct.
All right, but you knew immediately that that Whip City Bar and the Maple Leaf were both involved in the incidents, in the events of that night, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you didn't take any steps at that point in time to document what the state of the establishments looked like then, correct?
No, did not.
Okay, and you knew early on in this case that that there was an incident outside of Whip City that was very important to the circumstances of this case. Is that correct?
I'm not understanding now.
Well, specifically, you learned that that Ms. Avery had an interaction with a young man named Scott Burns outside of the Whip City. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you didn't take any steps to go and document that that area outside of the Whip City, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay, so no. So you've come here now, all this time later, and now you've gone back to these establishments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just didn't seem relevant at the time. In a thorough investigation.
An empty parking lot. I didn't know. I did not see.
Oh, okay. But you didn't know something happened in that parking lot, correct?
I don't believe it was that night. It would. I'm not sure when we interviewed the gentleman that told us that. It would have been the next couple days.
But that was within a few
Yes,
days,
yes,
correct?
a few days.
Now, and it was your testimony that you've tracked the time to between Whip City and the White Street address, and that you came up with 1.3 miles?
I tracked the distance, yeah, not the time.
The distance, okay. And heard a lot of some information about what traffic might have been like at that time, but in fact, did you recover, were you part of the investigation that found surveillance videos of the car returning to the White Street address that night?
Yes, I was.
That was you?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you obtain that video from?
I believe I got two different sets of video. I believe one was from Pro Lamina, I believe, which was Elm Street, or North Elm Street. And the second would have been 101 Meadow Street, I believe, is the address there.
Okay, and so that's turning the corner directly onto White Street,
From Meadow to White Street.
which is right near their house, the apartment at the time, correct?
Yeah, just down the street. Yep.
Okay, and those were time stamped, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so we're not guessing here. You know that the vehicle that Ms. Avery and Mr. Scanlon returned to the car and arrived at that corner of Meadow Street and White Street at 1:20 a.m. Is that correct?
I do believe we saw the vehicle on the video from the Meadow and White Street intersection. I don't recall if we saw the vehicle on the video from North Elm Street, Pro Lamina, but that was a timestamp.
Okay.
That one, yes.
So you recovered the video, though, correct?
Yes, yes, I did.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Detective Mazza, did you review any of those surveillance videos to prepare for today?
No, not within the last maybe 2 months.
Okay. And I'm just going to ask you a couple questions now. As part of that, how did you went about getting those surveillance by going to the places that you believe might have this evidence and asking them if they had any video? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then when they did, you preserved that in the form of a digital video file, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you included that in the case file that went to the Commonwealth, correct?
Correct.
To the DA's office?
Correct.
Okay. Where's the...
So we'll mark the flash drive for ID only, is that right? All right.
That's going to be K.
flash drive's been marked for ID only. I expect that it'll be entered into evidence at some point in time later, either through another witness or otherwise.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
Nothing else, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, at this time, the Commonwealth will call Caitlin Avery.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you will give this court and jury in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you. Please take the witness stand.
May I inquire?
Ready, Attorney Green.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And if you could just scooch a little closer to that microphone so everybody can hear you, could you just please introduce yourself to the jurors and spell your last name?
Hi, I'm Caitlin Avery, and it's Avery.
And how old are you?
28,
What town do you live in?
Springfield, Mass.
All right. Have you ever lived in Westfield?
Thank you. Yes.
All right. And how long did you live in Westfield?
About 2 years.
All right.
At the time, at least. I grew up there.
Okay. What was your relationship to Alexis Avery?
That is my baby cousin.
All right. So you're actually related to
Yeah.
Alexis. And aside from your familiar relation, were you close personally?
Yes.
How long had you been friends with Alexis Avery for? Back in 2019.
We had been close pretty much from when I moved up from Florida, from when I was 11.
And through your relationship with her, did you come to know somebody by the name of Blake Scanlon?
I did.
All right. Do you see Mr. Scanlon here in the courtroom?
I do, right over here.
Your Honor, may the record reflect identification of the defendant?
Can we do a little better?
Can you just point to him and describe an item of clothing that he might be wearing?
He's over there wearing the white shirt and the black suit.
Thank you.
Thank you. The record may so reflect.
Thank you. Again, just kind of an estimate. How long would you say you had known Blake, back in 2019?
Approximately maybe like 4 or 5 years at the time.
And if you know, what was his relationship with Alexis Avery?
They were friends at first, and then they started dating.
And did they have a child together, if you know?
Yes.
And what was her name?
Darla.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention back to, again, 2019, and specifically January 11th, which would have been a Friday night. What were you doing, or what were your plans that night?
Me and Lexi planned to go out to have a girls' night.
All right. And when you say we, specifically you and?
Me and Alexis.
Okay. And did you end up at Alexis's mother's house at some point in time?
Yes, we actually met up at her mom Jessica's house because Jessica watched my son Jaden for the night for us to go out.
And was there something about taking somebody's car or whatnot?
Yeah, so my headlight was out in the front of my car, and Blake was going to use Lexi's car to move out that night.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Next question.
Didn't motion strike.
Strike the last part.
So let me go back and ask you this. Was Alexis going to be driving her car that night?
No, we planned to drive her mom's car.
Okay. And why is that?
Because my headlight was out in my car, and Blake was planning to use Alexis's car.
Last part is stricken. All right.
Do you know what car Blake took that night when he left?
Alexis's Cobalt.
All right. Chevy Cobalt?
Yes, Chevy Cobalt.
So at some point, are you back in the apartment with Alexis getting ready?
Yes, we drove from Alexis's mom's house back to their apartment, taking both her car and Alexis's mom's.
Okay. And if you recall, what was Alexis's mother's car?
It's a Mazda, a red Mazda SUV.
Okay. And when you got back to the apartment, was the defendant there?
Yes.
Could you describe how he was just acting in general?
Distraught, sad, mopey.
Did he say anything in particular?
Yeah, just he mentioned, he can't believe he's losing his family. He didn't want to. Stuff like that.
Okay. Did you see him consume any alcohol at that point?
I did. He grabbed a handle of Bacardi Lemon off the top shelf of their cabinet and took a few swigs.
All right. And did he say anything when he did that, if you know?
Just that he can't believe he's losing his family. He didn't want to lose them.
Okay. Now, you had made plans to go out with Alexis.
Yes.
Did those plans include, if you know, Mr. Scanlon?
No, absolutely not.
All right. Do you know if Mr. Scanlon left the apartment at some point in time?
Yeah, while me and Alexis were getting ready, he did leave, probably around, 8 approximately, maybe.
Sure. All right. So sometime around 8, he left.
Yeah.
And again, in whose car?
And Alexis's Cobalt.
And the two of you are still getting ready?
Yes.
Okay. When you say getting ready, what do you mean?
We were doing our makeup, listening to music, dancing around. Alexis had changed her outfit a couple times, just the regular being girls.
Sure. And it was a long time ago, but if you recall, what was, you called her Lexi?
Yeah.
What was she wearing that night, if you remember?
I remember the outfit that she ended up going out in was like a lighter pink crop top, long sleeve, like sweater, and some dark jeans with holes on the side.
Okay. And where did you go first? What bar?
The Maple Leaf in Westfield.
You know approximately what time you got there?
9-ish.
All right. And is that a place that you're familiar with?
Yes.
All right. And when you got to the Maple Leaf, was there anybody else with you at first other than Alexis?
No, people had actually met us up with us there.
All right. And when you say people met up with you there, who, if you know?
Alexis's co-worker Scott and one of his friends.
All right. Had you met Scott before?
No.
All right. Was the first night you met him?
Yes.
All right. And how did Scott know to be at that place?
Alexis had...
Sustained.
Do you know if Alexis attempted to communicate with Scott prior to this night? Not specifically what she said, but did she communicate with him?
Just yes or no? Overruled.
Prior than that night?
No, that night. I'm sorry.
Yes, she communicated with him.
Okay. And so what happened when Scott showed up? Just generally describe kind of what's going on.
We all met up at the bar, and he bought us a couple shots, and we were just mingling, hanging out, talking. They had been flirting a little bit, and it was just kind of casual at the beginning.
All right. And again, if you know, at that point in time, was Mr. Scanlon at the bar?
Not when we first got there.
Okay. Was Alexis doing anything with her phone?
Yeah, Alexis was very adamant to keep checking her location because her and Blake shared their locations.
Your Honor.
It's overruled.
May we approach?
Sure.
Mr. Avery, I'm just going to rephrase my question and kind of ask you very specifically. Did you see Alexis checking her phone?
Yes.
Did she check her phone more than once?
Yes.
All right. Did she ever show you on her phone what she was checking?
Yes. She showed me Blake's location.
Okay. And when you saw that, could you see where Mr. Scanlon's location was?
The phone's location.
Yes, could you see the location of the phone
Yes.
communicating with Alexis?
Yes.
All right, all right. Now, I want to just continue with the night. How are things going with Alexis and Scott?
They started flirting a bit more. We had taken a few shots apiece, and they did start kissing at the end of the bar, just kind of feeling each other out.
And did you see the defendant at that bar at any point in time during that night?
Yeah, after, excuse me, after I noticed Lexi and Scott had started, flirting a bit more, there was a point where I seen Blake and one of his friends walk in to the bar, so I ran straight up to Alexis and told her, like, we gotta go, Blake's here.
Okay. And what was, specifically when you say flirting and getting along, what was Alexis, what did you see Alexis and Scott doing at the bar?
Like hugging up on each other, flirting, complimenting each other, laughing, kissing, stuff like that.
Okay. Did you go to another place?
We did.
All right.
After
Yeah, go ahead.
After he showed up there, we went to go leave, and we decided to go to a different bar so we could avoid any issues.
Where did you decide to go to?
To the whip.
All right. Did you tell Mr. Scanlon where you were going?
No.
All right. Did you or Alexis, if you know, tell Scott where you were going?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you tell Scott you guys were going?
I actually, and she actually both told him we were going to the whip to meet us there.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yes, we went to the whip and met up.
As you were leaving, if you recall, what did the defendant do?
As we were leaving
The
Where?
first place, the Maple Leaf.
the Maple Leaf, when we first seen him come in, Alexis ran out behind one side of the bar, and then I seen his friend that he was with. I went up to that friend and I started talking to him, asking like, how was his mood that night?
Yeah, don't get into.
Okay, sorry.
Just what did you see?
I seen Blake go after her outside, and they went and had a conversation outside that I wasn't a part of.
Okay, you couldn't hear the conversation.
No.
Did anything strike you at that point?
Nothing seemed alarming at that time.
All right, that's what I was getting at. So you and Alexis went over to the second place?
The whip.
Again, do you know approximately what time maybe you got there?
Maybe 10:30, 11. I'm not 100% sure. It was 5 years ago.
Somewhat later in the night.
Yeah.
Yep. Scott and his friend show up at the whip.
Yes.
All right. Who got there first, if you know, you or him?
I think it was me and Alexis.
Okay. But he got there sometime shortly after?
Yeah, if not around the same time, because their parking lot's kind of big. So.
All right. And describe what you remember seeing of the interactions again between Alexis and Scott. Just their interactions, not what was said, but what were they doing?
The same things pretty much at the Maple Leaf. We were all hanging out. They were flirting. They were kissing. We were taking shots together. They were just in general having a good time with each other.
Okay. At some point in the evening, did you again notice Mr. Scanlon at the whip?
Yeah, actually out of nowhere, I looked up and I seen him standing off into the side by the pool tables, kind of just staring at us.
All right. Now you said that at the first place he was with a friend.
Yeah.
All right. What about at the second place?
No, he arrived alone.
Okay. Well, did you see him with anybody while you were there?
No.
All right. And just describe again, as best you can recall, where Mr. Scanlon was.
When I noticed him?
Yes.
Over by the pool tables, standing off in the corner.
All right. And where were Alexis and Scott?
At the end of the U.
All right. Did you talk to Mr. Scanlon?
I did.
And how did you initiate that conversation?
I did.
How did you do that?
When I noticed him standing there and he went to come over and talk to Alexis and ask her, you know, what was going on, who was Scott. Alexis introduced Scott to him and said, this is my coworker, Scott. And then I had pulled Blake out to the patio and I told him, you know, what are you doing? This isn't going to, you know, help anything.
So that's sustained as to what she said. Ask the next question.
But you had a conversation with him outside on the patio?
Yes.
All right. What did he say to you?
Hold on, I'm sorry. I remember having the conversation with him, and then as I was telling him whatever, he looked over and seen Alexis and Scott hugging, and he said, why the fuck are they hugging like that?
Okay.
And if he keeps seeing that, he was going to fuck him up.
All right. So he said that to you?
Yes.
All right. Did you go back inside at some point?
Yes, after that conversation.
All right. Did you, without getting into details, did you relay some information to Alexis?
I did.
All right. And when I ask you about this, you mentioned, well, let me ask you this. Was there a point in time in the night where Alexis's, or her mother's key fob went missing?
Yeah.
When did Alexis notice the key missing, if you know?
It was definitely after I had the conversation with Blake.
At the second place, though?
At the second place, because we drove the mom's car to the whip.
Sure.
At some point after that conversation we had, she let me know that, oh, the car key was missing, the fob.
Did you help her look for it?
I did. Inside the bar.
Where did you look?
So me and her both looked inside the bar, and then we were kind of separated and we're looking around. After a little bit, I noticed she wasn't in the bar anymore, so I went outside to look for her, and I seen her standing up against her mom's car, and Blake was like standing in front of her, kind of standing over her. And when I walked out, I, you know, said, get away from her. And she said, oh, he's bothering me.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Did he say anything to you?
That he was trying to help her find the key.
Okay. What happened after that interaction?
I had them go separate ways. I went outside and I told Alexis to go in one door, and I told...
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Where did you go, and where did she go, if you know?
She went into the main door, or the side door on the left side of the property, and I went around to the front door where you get ID'd, and I went back in that way.
All right. So now I want to jump forward to like about 1 o'clock in the morning or so. Did you have eyes on Alexis at this point? Could you see her in the bar?
No.
All right. Did you know where she was at that time?
I did not.
All right. Was the defendant still at the bar?
Yes.
All right. Did he ask you any questions about Alexis?
He did. He was asking me where she was and what she was doing, and I showed him my phone that I was calling her right in front of him, like, look, she's not answering me either. I don't know where she's at.
Okay. And you were trying to locate her?
Yes.
And why is that?
She was my ride home, and because it's my little cousin, you know, I want to know what's going on with her.
Yep. Did you find her to get a ride home that night?
I did not.
I'm sorry?
I did not.
Okay. And let me ask you this. You saw the defendant at both bars, right?
Yes.
All right. If you remember, do you recall if he was drinking?
I did not see him drink at either bar.
All right. You had a conversation with him at both places, is that correct?
Yeah, briefly.
And had you ever consumed alcohol in his presence in the past, before this night?
Yes.
Have you ever seen him tipsy or intoxicated?
Yes.
Based on your interactions with him that night, how did he appear to you?
Sober, just distraught, like from the beginning, upset that he was losing his family, like he was saying, but not out of like the ordinary, like it wasn't alarming.
Your Honor.
That's a rule.
Could you understand his words when he spoke with you?
Absolutely.
Is he standing upright, not falling down, things like
Yeah.
that? Did you ever see Alexis again after that night?
I did not.
I'm just going to show you some pictures, and I don't want you to say anything about them. Just take a minute, flip through them, and let me know when you're done. Without getting into it, I'm going to ask you about it now, but do you recognize what is depicted in these images?
Yes.
What are these pictures of?
Me texting Alexis and then me texting her when I couldn't find her too.
And so you were trying to contact with her device, her
Yeah, her phone. Yeah.
and just so we're clear, again, not an iPhone expert or anything, but like the blue bubbles
Are me.
are you.
Yes.
Okay. And have you had a chance to look at these just now?
Yeah.
Are these accurate representations of the messages you were sending to Alexis's phone?
Yes.
Can I have this packet mark for identification, please?
Identification only.
L7 sheets.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Just very quickly, without getting into specifics, did you attempt to contact Miss Avery's cell phone on Saturday?
Yes.
And did you actually speak with her, hear her voice on Saturday?
No.
I have no further questions.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
Have a child, is that correct?
Yes.
And how old was your child at that time?
Oh my goodness, can I do the math? I'm sorry. 29, 50,
How old was she then?
19. He was 4.
Okay. And so on that particular night, the plan was to go out for a girls' night with Kayla. Is that correct? I mean, with Alexis, correct?
Yes.
And the plan was that Alexis's grandmother was going to keep both your child and Darla. Is that correct?
No.
No?
No, Jessica, her mom, kept my son, and her grandmother kept Darla.
Okay. And so you met up to get a car, and then you headed back over to Alexis's house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified that that Blake was talking some about. Well, first of all, you said that he seemed sad.
Yeah.
And I think you used the word mopey.
Yeah.
And I think you also used the word distraught.
Yeah.
That is something, you described him as distraught starting even as early as before you left. Is that a fair recollection of your testimony?
Yeah.
Okay. And you talked to police shortly after this happened, is that correct?
Yeah, after we got notice that it happened.
Okay. And you talked about that conversation between Alexis and Blake before you left to go out. Do you recall that?
What conversation?
Well, in general, you talked about while everybody was getting ready to go out.
Yeah.
Correct. That you were there and Alexis was getting ready to go out.
Yes.
And Blake was also getting ready to go out. Correct.
He was just there waiting to leave to go to his friend's house.
Okay.
He was already dressed, like he wasn't getting ready as we were.
Okay, but he was definitely going out. Correct.
Yeah.
And he also left before you guys left the house.
Yes.
And during that time when you were all together at the apartment, he did say something about the future and that there was that maybe they weren't going to continue to be together. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And he specifically said when you talked to police, so when I do leave, what about child support? So do you remember saying that to the police?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was saying, so when I do leave. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, but on that particular night, you and Alexis were going out, correct?
Yes.
And Blake went to his friend's house.
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't know what their plans were with his friends other than that, correct?
No.
All right. But it's fair to say that Maple Leaf is a bar that you've been to in the past?
Yes.
And you've been there with Alexis and Blake in the past?
No.
No?
No.
But it's a local tavern, right?
Yes.
And so is the Whip?
Yes.
Okay. Fair to say that the Whip is the closest bar to their home?
Yeah, I guess the Maple Leaf and the Whip are kind of very close to where their apartment was.
Okay. Doesn't take more than about 3 minutes to get between the Whip and their house. Is that fair?
Probably.
Okay. Now, at the time of, on January 11th, at that point in time, Blake and Alexis, they have actually been on again, off again since about 2016. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were on and off again, but as of New Year's Eve when I was at the house with
Just
them.
answer the question. So
Yes.
they have been on again,
Yep.
off again, correct? Okay. And then as far as when they lived together, though, they moved in together at White Street around June of 2018. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And so they were definitely had moved there during the time that Alexis became pregnant with Darla. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
she was already pregnant.
Okay. And then Darla was born in August, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so Blake lived there, and they were living there at White Street together as a family during that period of time, correct?
Yes.
And so since August all the way through until through Thanksgiving, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, and Christmas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he's still living there in January 11th of 2019. Correct?
Yes.
Now, during the time while you guys were getting ready to go out, during that period of time, you saw Blake take several swigs of Bacardi, is that correct?
A couple swigs, yes.
Okay. And, you say a couple swigs now. When you talk to police, you
He
said
took
something.
some big sips, is what it was.
Swigs.
Yeah.
And that's what you mean is big gulps straight
Yeah.
from a Bacardi bottle. Correct?
Yes.
And that was a handle, right?
Yes.
And the court reporter is going to tell us that we need to stop talking over each other, so let me finish my questions. So, Bacardi, drinking it straight before they go out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there was other alcohol around the apartment that night, too. Do you recall that?
Not really, to be honest. I didn't go in their fridge or anything, but I do specifically remember the Bacardi lemon right on top of their cabinets.
Okay. And today you say it was 2 or 3 swigs, but when you talked to police, I think you said something more like 4 or 5.
Possibly.
Okay. But it was straight right from the bottle, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the girls' night aspect of it. You and Alexis actually made plans and discussed what you would be doing, and it was something along the lines of going out to eat, or something like that. Is that fair to say?
For food and drinks.
For food and drinks.
Yes.
And at some point in time, though, you knew that you were. It came to pass that Scott Burns and his friend from work joined you all at the Maple Leaf. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, did you know Alexis was inviting Scott?
After we were going to leave her apartment, yes. Prior to us meeting up, no.
Okay. And did you know that she had a crush on him or liked him in some fashion?
No, as far as I knew, it was just a coworker.
Okay. And she hadn't been out with him prior to that, is that correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And that was the first time you met him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified that when Blake came to the Maple Leaf, that you immediately had a reaction to that in terms of what Alexis was doing with Scott at the bar. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you even suggested to her that she needed to knock it off.
Yes.
Okay. And and so did she knock it off?
Sort of. We kind of went to a different place to excuse ourselves from being in his presence.
Okay. Now, when you went to the next bar, you said that before you left that Blake and Alexis had a conversation outside before heading over to the whip. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And so you weren't there for that conversation, so you don't know what they spoke about.
I was not.
Okay. So you don't know if Alexis shared where she was going.
As far as I know, she did not.
You don't know that?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, you testified tonight that you did not see Blake drink anything at all at the bar.
I did not see him drink anything at the bar.
Okay, so he's drinking swigs of Bacardi at his home, but at the bar he's not drinking anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were drinking that night?
I was.
Did shots with Scott and Alexis? And
Yes.
okay. And about how much did you have to drink that night?
Honestly, I can't recall. It's been 5 years, and there's been a lot to happen since. So, I mean, we had a decent amount to drink. We were out to drink.
Okay. And so you don't recall, you recall Scott buying you shots at the bar?
Yeah.
At the first bar, correct?
Yes.
And he bought you shots at the second bar, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you were when Blake came to the first bar, to Maple Leaf, you talked to him for some period of time, correct?
No, not really at the first bar. I talked to his friend.
Okay. And was his friend drinking?
I didn't see him have a drink in his hand. They had just walked in.
Okay. Now, you went to the second bar. You went to the Whip, correct?
Yes.
Now, once you were there, at some point in time, Alexis loses her keys to the car that she's driving that night, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and as far as you know, did she ever find them?
No.
Now, what did you think when you learned that she had lost her keys?
That it was just a small little key fob and that there wasn't really much else on it, so it was easy to lose. And we were kind of looking on the ground because we didn't have purses or like pockets, really. You know, girls put stuff in their shirts.
Okay. And you helped her look inside the bar?
I did.
Okay. And Blake was helping look for the keys too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was looking outside the bar?
Yeah. After she had went out, he had went out too.
And he was also helping her look for the keys, correct?
That's what they said.
Okay. And now, at some point in time, and I think it was maybe around 1 o'clock, 1:10 or so, you head back into the bar. Does that sound right in terms of timeline to you?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay. And you had actually misplaced, or did you misplace your ID, or did the bar still have it?
So my debit card was like a temporary one. It didn't have my name on it, so they kept my ID with my debit behind the bar. So at first I couldn't get back in. I had to have them bring my ID out.
Okay. And then you got back into the bar?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and you drank some more, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Did you buy your drink, or was...
I had been paying for my own drinks at that point.
Okay. And at that point in time, at some point, Blake was back in the bar with you, and he was talking to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, he doesn't know where Alexis is.
No.
Okay. And you also don't know where she's gone, correct?
Yes.
Right. And that's concerning to you because she's your ride home?
Yeah, and my little cousin.
Okay. And do you know how many more drinks you had at the bar?
Probably one. Between that all happening and me leaving, just sat on one drink.
Okay. And Blake is sitting there next to you at the bar? Are you sitting at the bar talking?
He's kind of like standing there on the side, and then he would like walk around looking for her and then come stand next to me again asking where she was.
Okay. Now, at some point in time, you lose track of Blake as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and so starting around 12:30, is that when you started reaching out and trying to reach Alexis?
I believe so. That the papers do have like the specific numbers of timing, but I believe it was around that time frame. Yes.
Okay. May I approach your honor?
Yes. Need the ID exhibit? Still the last ID exhibit.
May I refresh your memory if you saw a record of your text exchange and your calls to Alexis?
Yeah.
Well, you're taking a look at that. I want to tell the jury about refreshing recollection, okay? So you take a look at that. When a witness, this is refreshing recollection, which is what happened now. When a testifying witness's memory is exhausted as to a matter about which he or she once had knowledge, the witness's memory may be refreshed in the presence of the jury with any writing or other object that permits the witness to further testify from his or her own memory. The writing or object should not be read from or shown to the jury. So she's not to read from her, she's just using this to refresh her recollection about something that she once knew. Okay? That's refreshing recollection.
So based on that, do you think it's fair to say that you started trying to reach Alexis around 12:26 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And you called her, and she didn't pick up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then at some point you started messaging her saying, hey, where are you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at 12:46, you tried to video call her. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And And you're texting, messaging again, asking where she is, correct?
Yes.
Now, is it during that period of time where you show Blake and say, I'm trying to reach her too, I don't know where she's gone?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair to say you're pretty irritated with her at that point.
Not really, more worried.
Well, she was your ride home, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you weren't sure, it was cold outside?
Yeah, it was freezing.
So it wasn't, it was going to be difficult to get home and get an Uber and all that?
Well, not necessarily. It's just either way that she was my ride, so I was worried about where she was.
Okay. And at that point in time, though, you're showing Blake the messages, and he's in the bar with you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so neither of you can find her.
Yes.
Okay. Now, later, you finally do hear back from Alexis sometime about 1:45 a.m. Is that fair to say?
Well, from her phone.
You heard back from her phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's at that point in time, that's when you learned that she went with somebody else. Is that fair to say?
That's what I got for a text message. I didn't believe it, though.
Okay. And she went on to, and when it's suggested she went with somebody else, you say, is that Scott? Is that correct?
After the next message, I said, what do you mean with who, Scott?
Right, because she texts back and says, he probably left after caught me fucking someone in the truck.
Well, at that point, I don't know if it was her texting me, so it's her phone. Correct, it's her phone.
Okay. And in response to that, you say, what? By someone, you mean Scott? And the reply you get back at 2:06 a.m. is, yeah, LOL.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't attempt to text or message Alexis again until like 8:35 the next morning. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, my keys and stuff were in her house, so I was trying to get that back. Excuse me.
May I have a minute, Your Honor?
Of course.
Now, so you left you left the Maple Leaf because Blake came, and Alexis was flirting and kissing and making out with Scott. Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, and even if she wasn't, we didn't want to be around him either way, so.
But you left because?
We seen Blake come in.
Okay. And then when he comes into the second bar, Alexis is continuing to kiss and flirt and make out with Scott at that bar too, correct?
I don't believe she was necessarily making out with him at the whip, but they were like touchy-feely, huggy right there.
Okay. And at that, you also suggested to her that she knock it off there too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you understood that it was distressing to Blake, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
That's sustained.
You understood that he was distressed about the situation.
Yeah.
How did you get home that night?
Actually, I had a friend come meet up with me, and he drove me home.
Okay. So you had to call somebody to get a ride home?
Yes.
Do you know what time that happened?
Around closing, like I know it was after I actually had gotten one of the first texts back from Alexis's phone. At that point, I was like, there's nothing I can do. I don't know where she is. I can go home.
Okay. So at the time that you got that first text back from her and she said, I left with somebody, you're like,
A little,
oh, I guess.
a little bit after, yeah. Like I still sat there for a little bit.
Because you had to finish up your last drink and pay your tab?
Well, that, and I was just still sitting there kind of thinking over the night, like, what the hell happened?
Okay. And you paid your tab and then you left around closing time?
Yes.
Which was about 2 o'clock?
I would guess so, yeah.
No further questions?
Redirect.
May we approach this briefly?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much, Bill. I just have a couple of quick clarification questions.
Okay.
Actually, if I could see that now. This is 44. I'm going to display Exhibit 44. These are numbered 1 through 7, so just for the record, I'm displaying page 6 of 44. You see that image on the monitor?
Yeah, it's actually right behind you as well.
And so the blue is messages that you sent to Alexis's phone,
Yes.
and the white are messages that you got back from Alexis's phone.
Yes.
And is the picture over here in the corner, is that Alexis?
Yeah.
Hard to tell, but all right. And this message, he probably left after caught me fucking someone in truck, LOL. Anything seem odd to you
Objection,
about
Your Honor.
that message?
Overruled.
May I be heard?
You can be heard.
Caitlin, just very specifically, that reply you got, did that seem off to you? Just yes or no?
Yes.
You obviously knew Alexis very well.
Yes.
And did you know how she normally spoke and things like that?
Yes.
Counsel asked you a bunch of questions actually at the beginning of the cross-examination about time frames when Alexis and Blake were together. So they were together at Thanksgiving and living together, correct?
Yes.
And at Christmas time.
Yes.
And you started to mention something about New Year's, correct?
Yes.
All right.
It's leading, so no more leading.
Were you present during a conversation between the defendant and Alexis on New Year's Day?
Yes.
Objection.
Well, that's the last leading question, so now go ahead, next question.
Did you hear Alexis?
Sustained.
What do you remember hearing from that conversation?
Objection.
Well, not the back and forth, just Mr. Scanlon, if she remembers.
All right.
Objection, Your Honor, if I could be heard on that.
If you need to.
I do.
Here's some testimony I expect, members of the jury, regarding a conversation which this witness will say took place on or around January 1, 2019. If you credit that testimony, it's not offered for the truth of any of its content, but you may accept it if you believe it, only as to Mr. Scanlon's state of mind at that time. All right? That is the state of his knowledge, state of mind. Okay? Go ahead.
All right, I'm just going to rephrase the question again. Were you with the defendant and Alexis on New Year's Day?
Yes.
Did they have a conversation about the relationship?
Yes.
Did you overhear that conversation?
Yes, I was sitting right with them.
And to the best of your memory, what was that conversation?
That they were no longer going to be together. Alexis didn't want to be with Blake anymore.
Who initiated that conversation?
It was kind of a group thing. Lexi felt safe that I was there, that she could confront him in that situation.
Stand. Ms. Strickland.
So I'm going to back up a little bit. You were there, Alexis was there, and so was the defendant.
Yes.
And she mentioned something about their relationship.
Yes.
What do you specifically recall her telling him about the relationship?
That she didn't want to be with him anymore.
Okay. And what, if anything, did he say in response to that?
That was...
Overruled.
I can continue. That was actually the very first time that the child support comment was brought up, was that night when the breaking up originally happened. Alexis explained that she wasn't trying to keep him from Darla, and then he instantly started worrying about child support and what was going to happen to him on that level.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
All right, recross.
So after that conversation on January 1st, another 10 days passed before you went out again with Alexis.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And you weren't there for every conversation that Blake and Alexis had during that period of time, correct?
Yes.
Correct? You were not there?
Yeah, correct. I was not there.
Okay. So it's fair to say that you heard a conversation on January 1st, but you weren't there for any further conversations they had about the future of their relationship, correct?
In between the 2 days, yes, correct.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, you're all set. Thank you, Ms. Avery. Thank you very much.
May we approach, please?
Yeah, do you need, or are we just going to suspend?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, it's 20 minutes, you're all set. You can sit down. Who are our witnesses for the day, all right? So 20 minutes to 4, so we're going to break a little bit early. So if you put your notebooks and pens down, I want to go through with you the instructions and the court's order. And the reason why I do this every day, and sometimes I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but I'm doing it because it's of utmost importance that you adhere strictly to these orders throughout the entire course of the trial. Keep an open mind. Don't form any judgments as to any aspect of this case. We're not done with the evidence yet. You do not have the arguments of counsel, nor do you have the law that you're to apply in deciding this particular case. You must decide this case based only on the evidence that's presented here in the four walls of this courtroom. That means that you cannot search on the internet, website, blogs, or use any other electronic tools to obtain information about this case, conduct legal research, or do anything else to help you decide the case. Do not try to find any information from any source outside the confines of this courtroom. Do not investigate this matter. Remember, you're the judges of this case, and you're to decide this case based only on the facts. As to that particular instruction, do not have anybody perform those tasks on your behalf or do them for you. Until you retire to deliberate, you cannot discuss, and you must not discuss this case with anyone, even amongst yourselves. You may begin discussing this case only when you enter the deliberation room after I've told you to retire and begin your deliberations. I know we all have personal cell phones, which are basically smartphones, which are all mini computers of vast powers, investigatory tools, and so forth. You may not use these tools to communicate electronically with anybody about the case. Don't disclose your thoughts about your jury service or this case or advice as to how to decide this case. This includes your family and friends. Do not read, watch, or listen to any account of any aspect of this case in any news media or from any other source, including television, newspapers, and the internet. Do not perform any searches in that regard under any circumstances or have anyone do that for you. Do not talk to any of the witnesses, parties, or attorneys involved in this case. They know not to interact with you. coming and going. But all professionals have been doing this for a while, and so they know that. The reason for these cautions are simple. We've now heard a day of testimony, but they're all critically important. There is to be no outside influence or information of any kind on you or your deliberations. That would be completely improper, unfair to the parties, and would cause a problem for our trial. With that, I'll ask you all to come in here shortly before 9 o'clock. We'll try to get started right at as close to 9 o'clock as we possibly can. I expect a full day tomorrow. Thank you all for your attention. Try to get a good night's sleep tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You're exiting.
So we're going to bag the knives in the morning, plastic evidence bags or what have you, and that's it. I did catch that purple ribbon on the way out, but it was the smallest little thing on it, but it was a white blouse, so it was there. I could see it, but I tried to see it and I couldn't for the longest time. So we're not going to have any more purple ribbons on the witness stand. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I don't believe so.
All right, so we'll see you in the morning.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Green. Who are the witnesses for tomorrow? And the order, preferably.
Yes. Mr. Burns, Scott Burns.
First?
Yes.
Okay.
Sergeant McNally. And if we have, I will submit this for the court. We have stipulations regarding a lot of the chain of custody for DNA and things like that. However, and I appreciate that, but I'm still going to call one criminalist and one DNA analyst just so the jurors have some background about what DNA essentially is. I'd expect them to both testify tomorrow, and potentially also the medical examiner.
I thought the medical examiner wasn't available till Wednesday.
I'm going to see if I can get him available tomorrow. I just the way we're moving through this case, if the medical examiner is available tomorrow, I could potentially arrest him.
Right.
Big if, but we're moving right along.
All right, so then that's what we may see tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'll see you in the morning.
All rise.
All right, everybody. So that concludes day one of the Blake Scanlon trial. You heard it there. It looks like we might be resting for the state tomorrow. I don't know what the defense has in store in a case like this. Besides the defendant testifying, that would be, as I said earlier, I think that at the end of the AM session, I think that he almost has to get on the stand in a case like this, because it's going to come down to his state of mind, what he was thinking, what happened. And I was looking up the penalties and things. So essentially what he's looking at here, 20 years for manslaughter, life with a parole sentence. So in other words, if he gets convicted of second degree, he ends up with the opportunity to get parole. He'll have to serve a certain amount of time determined by the judge. So it could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 20 years. If it's first degree, it's life, no parole. So those are the stakes. So what he's really fighting for right now, I think, is really more of a, a life, either a life with a determinate set amount of time that he'll serve, or up to 20 years if it turns into a manslaughter case. I can't imagine this being a manslaughter case because the way you read the statute of second degree, and give me a moment here, we'll pull it up and we can take a look at that briefly here. Let's see. All right, so let's see. Oh. Oh, that's the problem. I apologize here, guys. There it is. Okay. So if you look at second degree unaliving here, what we're talking about here is it's a matter of premeditation, but it's done with malice and aforethought. So it's a heat of the moment killing. So I think what they're going to have to argue here, manslaughter would be, I think, applicable in the sense that if he would have killed her in that parking lot, we might be at manslaughter. You know, he walks in and encounters this and just loses his mind and sees it. But the fact that they get home, the issue is whether or not he had an intention of killing her at that point. Now, if he made a calculation in his mind when he sees her, says, you know what, she's dead, I'm going home, and he gets her home, gets a knife out and stabs her 26 times, but the 26 stab wounds indicate, and this is what the attorney's going to argue on his behalf, you can make an argument that shows heat of passion, right? That shows heat of passion. That shows that it was in the heat of the moment, right? There was anger. There was, it wasn't an intentional thing where he said, I'm going to kill her and try to get away with this thing. It was just they're arguing. He's seen this horrible thing, her having sex in a parking lot. Knife's in the kitchen. He picks it up and just starts stabbing her. Now, there was malice. He intended to kill her when he's stabbing her. No question about that. This wasn't a situation where it was like he pulls a gun up and he's waving it all around. I'm going to kill myself, and it discharges and goes off. Now you're at a manslaughter. You might even be at an involuntary manslaughter in that sort of a circumstance. Or like I said, he runs over there and he's got a gun in his car and he pulls it out and just says, you, bam, and fires a shot at the car to stop her from doing it. And they'd say that's manslaughter, right? But in this case, I think where we're going, where we're heading, and where we'll probably end up, because I think this jury is going to look at this set of facts and understand that this was not a scenario where he was thinking to himself, I'm going to kill her at the beginning of this night. It just ended up here. What I'm surprised about is the state, although I'm not surprised when you find the backstory of this case, that the district attorney in this case is a victim in another case where this guy is trying to off the district attorney, which is crazy. Sounds like Drew Peterson case. But when you know that, you understand why there's been no plea bargain offered here, because they want him locked up for life, especially Mr. Green, which again, to me, it belies the question, why in the world would you keep this guy, a prosecutor, on the case, making decisions about the case? You're wasting taxpayers' money when this sounds to me like a second degree unaliving. He could be arguing this before the jury. Now, again, we haven't seen the defense's case, but I haven't seen anything in the questioning that we would get to manslaughter. Now, give me a moment here. We'll look at the manslaughter law. All right, so here we are. Massachusetts manslaughter law here says whoever commits manslaughter, except as hereinafter, shall be punished. Well, hold on a second here. We got to go back. This is just the punishments. So let's go back to the definition here. All right, Massachusetts legislature. That's what we were supposed to be getting. All right, let's look up the elements of manslaughter in Massachusetts. Sorry, guys. All right. All right. I apologize, guys. Here, let's go in here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this. Well, let me make sure. Yes, okay, good. It is coming through well. All right, so we went to our friend ChatGPT here to find the elements of manslaughter. It's not for some reason coming up in the code area that I thought it was in. So, anyways, it must be wanton, right, or reckless, and that's involuntary manslaughter. So let's look for manslaughter here. All right, so I had this up for the delete case, so I know it's there. But we're not talking about involuntary manslaughter. No, manslaughter. Okay, to convict someone. See, there it is, involuntary manslaughter. I don't understand why. Manslaughter is a fine, imprisonment, House of Corrections. Voluntary manslaughter. Okay, what are the elements of voluntary manslaughter? Let's go that direction. Oh, here it is. Okay, voluntary manslaughter is considered a felony. It involves intentionally causing the death of another person. Hold on, let me make sure. Is this sharing? I think it should be. Okay, good. Heat of passion resulting from reasonable provocation, heat of passion arising from sudden combat, and excessive force used in self-defense or defense of another. Both unaliving and voluntary manslaughter involve purposely taking someone's life. However, voluntary manslaughter occurs when the killer's thinking is disturbed by emotional excitement to the point where a reasonable person might act impulsively without thinking twice. The killing itself must result from this emotional excitement and reasonable provocation. For instance, if a person acts in self-defense but overreacts, the reaction must happen instantaneously, and any cooling off period would elevate to first or second degree unaliving. Okay, there it is. That's what I was looking for in explaining this. That's the issue we have. We have a cooling off period. Now, the defense is going to try to claim that because he asks her to leave and they get in the car, that there was no cooling off period, that it was like a simmering boil. He sees this, get in the car, let's go home. Arguing continues. They get into the house, and it just rises to a point to where he's so upset by what he's just seen. He gets to the house, he's provoked, and, in the heat of passion, with provocation here, the provocation being what he just saw, he picks a knife up and he starts stabbing her. The issue is you have to link that in. Now, again, this is why I say there's only one way they can link the heat of passion of that moment to when the killing happens, and that is if Mr. Scanlon intends to testify. So I believe we're going to see Scanlon testifying in this case. There's no other way for them to get to a manslaughter verdict in this case, which is what they're shooting for, which would be 20 years, up to 20 years in prison. It would be a huge victory. Now, he's facing the solicitation charges and the witness intimidation charges, all of those things. So he's facing potential substantial sentences for those, but that's another case, another time, and that's going to be another trial that I'm sure will be covered by Law and Crime. But in this case, it's going to come down to linking what happened in that car, which we just heard testimony about today, or at least some inferences about it, saying that she saw him around this guy, Scott. I assume Scott is going to testify, and we're going to hear from Scott about exactly what happened in that car and how he was, because again, the reason why the state mentioned in their opening statements, and this is important for you to understand when you're analyzing this thing, and we're going to come out of the computer here. The reason why it's important to understand why the state made a point to say he was calm, he was matter of fact, and he just said, "Get out of the car," is because they want to make it clear that he was not in a heat of passion. He was not angry. He was not mad. That he had simply just decided, you know what, I'm going to kill her. Get out of the car. Let's go home. And essentially what they're going to try to equate that to is that he was luring her out of the car, got her into his car or whatever the car that they were driving, drove home, killed her, and then went on about his business for the weekend. And basically was like, you know what? He made that decision. And that there was no heat of passion. There was no anger. There was no huge, there was no emotional situation that would allow for him to make an argument that this was done in a heat of passion. So that's what we're looking at here. So it's a very, it's going to be a very interesting case. Again, this is going to come down to, I believe, how the jury feels about him when he testifies. And how is his emotional reaction? What does he have to say? How does he describe it? It's going to be an exciting moment when he testifies. And it will be an even more exciting moment when he gets cross-examined in this case. Because that's where this case is going to live or die, I believe, in the cross-examination of him, how he holds up, how he comes across. Does he come across as sincere, or does he come across as a young man who witnessed something that a lot of people would get very caught up in, a lot of emotion and passion, and may very well do what he did, So those jurors it's not going to be lost on those jurors, and those jurors are not going to know what we know. And maybe I shouldn't have inserted that in here in regards to his actions and activities, but those actions and activities came from him sitting in the House of Corrections, waiting on this case, upset that this prosecutor, is coming at him. But the question I would have if I'm, in this case is, why would you not? Right now, I've heard nothing that would suggest that a second-degree plea bargain here wouldn't have been the right move to save the taxpayers money, to save her family the need of going through. You still have potential of a life sentence. You have a 25 to life in this instance, I think would be absolutely perfectly acceptable. Even 15 to life in this instance would be perfectly acceptable given the circumstances. And the potential is, hey, reform yourself so that you can return and re-enter society, and you get out on parole, or you get life. The answer to the reason why I think we haven't seen a plea bargain is because this young man decides to try to go off a prosecutor and a witness, and that prosecutor is still prosecuting this case. And that's, to me, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't think that prosecutor should have been involved in this case. Not making decisions on this. Not when he knows the defendant sitting over there was trying to kill him. I mean, that's crazy. There's no way you could say that this guy's making judgments that are not biased, that are just simply on the case that's in front of him. This is a guy who's like, you tried to kill me. That's what this guy believes, or you believe the defense. If you look at that, the defense is, if you read a little bit more into that slip opinion, and I haven't gone beyond the slip opinion, but if you read into it, the allegations from the defendant are that this prosecutor, in an intense desire to get him, conspired with this other guy this inmate to get him to testify and say make the assertion that he was trying to hire someone to intimidate a witness and kill a witness and kill the prosecutor. So it's pretty crazy, and it's, like I said, that's a pretty crazy and insane case that I think it'll be interesting itself to see that trial when it comes up. I'm sure Law and Crime will absolutely be covering it, Court TV, all of them. Because that's just one of those wild cases that you don't see happen too much, but when you do, man. So, anyways, interesting case we have here. It's 4:00. I'm happy to say we're getting a little, when we're covering a Massachusetts case, we get a early day. Now, there is a case out in Arizona that's only running Tuesday to Friday. May pick up some coverage of that on a normal day. Opening statements on that case happened on Friday. I have them up as just a separate airing, not me watching it. I'm not going to. I was going to cover that case. That was going to be the next case, but I found out about this case, looked into it, and said, "No, this is the next case." And it's East Coast. It makes sense. But we will be giving some coverage to that. We'll be talking about it in Justice Watch Live. Check out Justice Watch Live sometime between, normally not between 9 and 11. I'll go live and we talk about cases. We talk about the case we're covering. We talk about other cases in the news. We'll watch body camera footage, interrogation footage, videos, talk about it. It's meant to be interactive. We're going to, of course, the new series I'm unveiling, which is the Tyrone Tucker series called Gagged, Why They Tried to Silence Franklin Tucker. That first episode happens tonight at 7. It's premiering, and then I'll be hopefully going, if all goes well tonight, we'll have a Justice Watch Live episode that we'll be talking about some of that if people want to come in and ask questions about what they see in that and talk about that. Anybody who's watched that. And, of course, we'll talk about today's case some more because this is one of those cases that's just going to be a fun one to talk about for the next couple of days. So that's where we'll go. So anyways, guys, on your way out, please hit the like button. Like this video so that the algorithm knows people should watch it and it gets it moving. Share it. Make sure, too, when you come in here, share it into the onto YouTube to let more people know so we can get more people in here. Also, while you're here, please chat. Let me know your thoughts on the case. Let me know what you think about what you're seeing. I want to hear from you. So does everybody else. Let's have a talk. Let's have a discussion. Sometimes I'll be watching these cases and I'm just in chat. I'm watching like you guys. I'm not up on screen. You see it'll say watching on mobile. And in those cases, chat with me. I'm always looking to hear from you, looking to hear your perspective on the case that we're watching. So with that said, guys, I am going to go ahead and call this live, the PM session of the Blake Scanlon case. Thank you for all that watched. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will begin watching day 2 and what might be the final day of the prosecution case. And then we will get some answers on exactly what the defense is planning to do. Again, I believe that's going to be, their case is going to be Blake Scanlon testifying. So slate that for Wednesday. It will be Wednesday one way or another because it sounds like it's either going to be medical examiner testifies late tomorrow and they rest, or it'll be medical examiner testifies Wednesday morning and they rest, and then the excitement of Blake Scanlon's testimony, or maybe they rest the case. That would be crazy. That would be like just spiking the football and going home and saying, you know what, we give you the case. Because, I guess we'll see more when the medical people come in. But this is a case where it demands and screams. Normally, I would say, don't put the defendant on the stand. I don't think you have any choice but to put the defendant on the stand in this case because we got to hear from him. So Wednesday will be an exciting day. I would expect if he testifies on Wednesday, it could be closing arguments on Wednesday afternoon, unless the defense has a few other witnesses. But I would foresee we're closing arguments on Thursday, verdict Thursday night, or maybe Friday, depending on if this jury needs some extra time to deliberate or how this judge wants to go. I know in past trials that 4 o'clock is a hard stop up there in Massachusetts. They don't like to keep those courthouses open late. So I would anticipate we may see deliberations roll into Friday, or maybe we get a Thursday afternoon verdict. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think the case will be to the jury by Thursday. In either a verdict Thursday night or Friday, sometime Friday. So anyways, that's what we're talking about here, guys. And then we'll go from there. So I will see you guys hopefully maybe tonight. If you guys are around and available, I'll put a link up with a time on when we're going to go live with Justice Watch Live. I hope to also see you in chat for the premiere tonight at 7 o'clock for Gagged, Why They Tried to Silence Franklin Tucker. And that's episode 1 of what will be about, I'm anticipating 3 to 4, possibly 5 episodes. Just depends on how long everything takes. I'm trying to keep it close to an hour an episode. Anyways, guys, with that said, I'll talk to you soon. Let justice prevail. And thanks for watching today.
Took a swing at a wrecking ball and I prayed for my downfall, and I found a way to reconcile, 'cause in my heart it's not worthwhile. It's a bloody battlefield where some go down, others heal. In the end it's all the same. All you can do is play the game. Oh.